horrific nightmares. And this is going to be a little bit different of a video that I've done before. Um, this is going to be an idea I kind of had while talking with the horror man, Joe, last week about, I think, our favorite slashers of all time. I can't remember. But this is the idea I told him I had for just doing a small video. And now it seems like a good time to kind of film it and post it. I have a lot of friends on here that this certain film is one of their favorites and made their slasher list, and also the slasher tag. It was talked about a lot. And unfortunately, I didn't put it on my slasher films top 25 because I consider it more of a character study. And by now, if you've watched my videos, you should know what that movie is. But I wanted to not only do this for the horror man who had mentioned this, but a new friend, which is a friend I just made actually, Sean Urshan, and also Andrew Ballina, an old friend who has mentioned this movie several times as well. The movie of which I speak is called Maniac, and it's one of my favorite horror movies of all time. And I do consider it more of a character study than a slasher. And the reason why I say that, and I'm probably going to get beat up for this, is I kind of consider it too smart to be a slasher. I mean, I really think that this movie is intelligently written, and it is one of the few movies that makes me uncomfortable to watch, but I love it. It's definitely one of my all-time favorites. But my idea was to tell you guys a story about how I was introduced to this film, because it's kind of a funny story. And I'm going to try not to be as long-winded as I normally am. Now, if you're new to my channel, my father and I went to a lot of movies when I was young. Through my teenage years and everything. That was kind of our thing to do. We were kind of bonded by film. My mom was the exact opposite. She didn't care for movies, didn't watch much TV, just the exact opposite. My father is not into horror movies. I don't know if I gave that impression before. The first movie he took me to see when I was little was Godzilla vs. Megalon, but kind of because it was a fun monster movie, I guess. But our thing was kind of like action movies and martial arts movies and stuff like that. Although, when I was really sick in my late 20s, early 30s, like for my birthday and stuff, he did take me to see Land of the Dead, because I really wanted to see it. And he took me to see something else. Now I'm drawing a complete blank. But anyway, my father was never really a horror movie fan. The farthest, I guess, let's see, what am I trying to say here? Silent Rage was as far as he would get into horror, which I really consider a horror movie myself, but it was because Chuck Norris was in it, and, we watched martial arts movies together. So, here's the story. I was already into slasher movies and horror films. Parents didn't really like me watching them, but, they let it go. So I was out with one of my really close friends that I grew up with. And we had seen a lot of the Friday the 13th and Halloweens and My Bloody Valentine and all that kind of stuff. And we were starting to look for stuff that was more controversial, I guess, is the subject. So, my father went to Home Depot, which I believe was Heckinger's at the time. And they had I think it might have been a Blockbuster, although I can't remember. But it was right next door to Heckinger's, and there was also a Jeppy comics place right near there. We went there as well. So we went in, and I mean, I've always wanted to see this movie because of the cover and stuff like that. But we rented Maniac. Took it back to my house. I think my father was doing work on our bathroom, something like that at the time, which is why he went to Heckinger's. Um, Took it home, popped it in. Me and my buddy started watching it. Um, we got to the point, probably 10 minutes into the movie, where he was with the prostitute, of course, and choked her and started to slice her scalp, top of her head, her scalp off. My mother walked into that room and she said, turn that off, turn that off. And I was like, no, no. But had to turn it off and take it back. So that was my first experience with Maniac. Of course, I had to rent it at a different time and take it over to my friend's house where his parents weren't usually around. But I just thought that was kind of a funny little story about how I was first introduced to it. Um, I used to rent horror movies all the time, movies like Evil Speak and Final Exam, and just movies like that. A lot of slashers, 80 slashers. But it was this one that completely, my parents were like, nope, not having it. And I was very disappointed. But it wasn't too long after that I actually got to see the movie. I think I was probably 11 or 12 maybe at the time. Maybe 11. I don't know. But my friend and I, we were looking for something more, just more than what we had seen. We had rented pieces not too, right before we rented this one. We were starting to get into, I guess, heavier horror movies, but that's kind of how I was introduced with Maniac. And like I said, I saw it not too long after that. It's been a favorite ever since, and it's definitely a movie that I feel is incredibly underrated as far as the acting. Um, the special effects, it's not really underrated as far as that's concerned. Everybody knows about that, but this is a brilliant film. In my opinion, a masterpiece. Which is kind of, I guess a lot of people say, how is this a masterpiece? There's so many gruesome things in it. I just think it's brilliant. The way it was written, the way it was acted, and it is very unfortunate that we lost Joe Spinell, because I do feel he was a terrific actor. But that is my story on Maniac, and I'm sticking to it. Comment below, let me know what you think about it. I just thought this would have been a fun thing to do, to kind of give a brief horror history on my experience with Maniac. But like I said, comment below, let me know what you think. If you like what you hear or see, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and until next time.